I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Corporation of the Town of Lincoln to order and ask that you all rise for the national anthem.
We see thee rise, thou true North, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, King our land, glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Please be seated. I would like to begin this evening by reading a safety notice. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors and obey all instructions given. And if assistance is required, please see the clerk. In this case, it would be Madam Clerk Julie Kirkelos to my right. And gather in the front parking lot outside of Town Hall. Also, the Town of Lincoln Committee and Council meetings are all posted on our YouTube channel. And there are a few members of the public here. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, media, for attending this evening. And just as a matter of order, to remind everyone of our rules of engagement, to please be respectful when others are speaking and to please refrain from clapping. Ladies and gentlemen, the Shononton people have known these and called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis and Inuit people who call this territory home. We have two councillors that are have sent regrets this evening, Councillor Brunet and Councillor Reimer. And staff are in attendance to speak to the issues that relate to their area of expertise. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Timmers? Nothing? I'm sorry, I thought I saw a notice with your name on it. And also, the next item on the agenda is announcements by members, and I just want to remind you that we have a limit of 3 per member. These are not questions, but true announcements. If you do have more than 3 and there is time, we can certainly accommodate. We'll just go around the horseshoe. Oh, here we are. Thank you. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to let everybody know that as the representative on the Chamber of Commerce and also representative on the Mayor's Golf Committee, we're starting up the planning this week. And, well, it's already begun, but there is a meeting this week, and I wanted to let everybody know that there's a lot of great sponsorship opportunities. I'll send out the information on that and let everybody make everyone aware of these sponsorship opportunities. The golf tournament raises money for a lot of really good causes in the community, including literacy. So I'll send out that information when I have it.
Great, thank you very much, Counselor. I don't see any other names. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to proclamations. We have no proclamations this evening. We have no recognition and achievements, and we'll move on to item number 9, a motion to approve council minutes. We're now considering item 9.1, council minutes of December the 16th. Do members of council have any questions or comments? I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Ranjima. Approve the minutes of the following meetings of council. Council minutes of December 16th, 2019. The pleasure on the motion. All those in favor, please hold your hands high. There are none opposed. The motion is carried. We have no registered delegations this evening, Madam Clerk, I see. However, we do have one presentation this evening from Elizabeth Zimmerman, the Executive Director of the YWCA Niagara Region. Elizabeth, please come forward, and you have 10 minutes to present.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to come and talk to you. This is, you're the first council I'm presenting to tonight to talk about our upcoming event, Coldest Night of the Year. It will be coming up in February the 22nd. This is actually a national event. There are many communities that will be hosting the walk. This year, it will be held at Mountain View Church on the corner of Bartlett and King Street, so just kind of in between the two communities. Town of Lincoln has been a great supporter of this event. It's a walk that is, it's actually a really fun event. We have a walk between 5 and 10 kilometers, depending how ambitious you are. It actually, I think, is 2 or 2.5 kilometers is the least. It is a pledge-based event, and this is a fundraiser that supports our transitional housing program that we operate here in West Niagara. We have about 20 units of housing, and over the course of the last few years, we've served over 200 people that have come through that program. It's a program that helps to stabilize most often women and children, and gives them about a year to 3 years of supports while they stabilize their lives, and ensuring that they will be able to maintain their own housing post the time that they've spent with us in the transitional housing program. It gives women the opportunity to work on things like, improving their employment situation, maybe doing some educating upgrades, whatever it needs, whatever they need to do, what they've identified to be able to move past the experience or near experience of homelessness. Often in West Niagara, we don't think about homelessness being an issue, but there is definitely, we see a fair number of people who are every day struggling to keep their housing. We've seen an exponential increase in the cost of housing over the last several years, and we know that anyone living on social assistance or low income, it becomes more and more precarious, and it takes one life event and your housing is at risk. And particularly for women-led families, often they are living, more often living closer to the poverty line, and so it becomes even more precarious for them. So this is an opportunity for you to support the work that we do in this community, and to the support to those families who are at risk. And we look forward to seeing you participate again, as we have in the past. And I will once again put out the challenge. I will be going to all 3 communities and looking for your support, and hopefully it can be the highest fundraiser of the 3 municipalities. So I will extend that challenge out to all of you. I think if there's any questions that you might have to this event or to the work of the YWCA, both in this community or broader, I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. members of council, I have Councillor Regima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your presentation, Elizabeth. I have, as the council appointee on the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, when I look at the picture and I see people walking for the coldest night of the year, and I think about issues for people with physical mobility challenges. And I wonder if there's any way through this that we can also raise awareness for accessibility issues related to housing.
Absolutely, and I think you make a very good point. If I think even in my experience in recent years with the women that we are seeing come into our shelters that we operate, that we've seen an increasing number of women coming in with mobility issues to the point of being fully wheelchair bound. So access to accessible housing is absolutely crucial and can be extremely difficult to find appropriate accessible housing. So I take that note, and I will ensure that we do have some highlights around the importance of access to accessible housing, because as I said, we are already seeing a further challenge for anyone with mobility issues to access housing.
Thank you. I could see that would be true as we intensify and housing builds up. I just think it's probably becoming more of a challenge, especially as our community ages, Niagara ages. So please let me know if there's anything I can do to assist to help raise awareness within this event, and you
I
can
will
reach out
take
to
this
me.
back to staff to say, how can we ensure that there's some highlights around the need for and to be thinking about the importance of accessible housing, and I will connect back with you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for that.
Thank you. And Councillor Timmers,
Thank you, Mary Easton.
I just want to check something. Councillor Regima, is your light on again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Timmers, please.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Thank you, Elizabeth, for coming in tonight. I can't believe we're here already, coldest night of the year. I just want to encourage everyone to take part in this. It is a fabulous event. It is a lot of fun, and it, the money that's raised is going to, very, very important cause. Elizabeth, I just wanted to ask you about Oakdale Commons. I remember seeing in the paper a big announcement in June, and that construction was going to begin in the fall for supportive housing, 24 units. I was just wondering, how is that going? How is the build, and are you on target for open?
Yes, actually, we have broken ground. We are, the foundation is just about in. We are set to, the target date is to be open and occupied by January 2021. This is a 24-unit build. 15 units of it will be what is called, under provincial funding, Home for Good. This is for women who have a lot of barriers to maintaining their housing, so it's intensive supports. There will be 4 units of shelter for families, so either 2-parent families or male-led single-parent families, or older children in single-parent families that will be access to those 4 units, and then there will be 5 additional units of supported housing for women with children. We're really excited about it. There has been funding under both the provincial Home for Good program as well as the federal co-investment fund, which falls under the National Housing Strategy. And we are also, because of some changes in the cost of the build, as well as the original decision was to sell off one of our other buildings, but we've decided that we want to invest in more affordable housing. So we are going back out to the community for additional capital funding. So you can stay tuned on that piece. This will be a great community asset in terms of the broader community. It's not just St. Catharines residents that will benefit, the whole Niagara region will benefit.
It's fantastic, and
Yeah.
Thanks for that update, and it is geared to income. Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, and I want to congratulate this council for its attention to the need to develop more affordable housing, as we see an increasing crisis in our shelter system. We have been sitting at over 110% occupancy for the last 3 years, where we were sitting at 80% prior. So there is clearly evidence of the need for more and more, to develop more affordable housing, and I wanted to congratulate this council for, paying attention to that, and especially in West Niagara, where it's very easy to not think of there being issues, but I'm sure if you've had any conversations with Carol Fuhrer from Community Care of West Niagara, you'll know that there are lots of people who are struggling in this community, and so your attention to that is welcomed and important. So thank you. The one thing I did forget to mention is we have also our chili cook-off, which
That's great.
if anybody's got a great chili recipe they want to enter into the competition, I know you'd be welcome, but another reason to attend the event. It's great, these wonderful chilies that people cook.
Thank you for that, Elizabeth, and that was the one thing that went off in my head was the chili cook-off.
Yes.
It's a great event, so I encourage everyone to come out and participate. Thanks a lot.
And now we have Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Elizabeth, wonderful organization you're a part of and helping those in a precarious or difficult situation. Looking at your stats, I'm just curious from your perspective, are you finding, is there a trend with regards to sourcing housing? Is it getting tougher? Is it getting easier? Has the word gone out? Have we, as this community, put the word out there to prospective landlords to offer assistance if able to?
It's been increasingly challenging, actually, and it's not so much finding landlords as finding them within the scope of our affordability. So when we see, with this program, we had lease apartments. We have many landlords that we work with across the region. The challenge has become the cost of rents has increased significantly. Attached to this, we're very grateful, Niagara Regional Housing, we have housing allowances that go with it, but it's now coming to a tipping point where the housing allowances aren't quite enough for anybody who's on social assistance with their housing allowance to ensure that it remains affordable during the time they're in this program. So we are continually looking for landlords that have an interest. We're a good tenant in the sense that we continually ensure that rents are paid, that the apartments that we lease are kept in good repair. It's an opportunity for the women and families that are participating in the program to be able to get their feet planted, develop those landlord relationships, and be able to move on successfully. So yes, there is some challenges. Then on the other side of it, interestingly enough, I've had, for the first time in my career of working at the YWCA, interest from developers. And so I've had a realtor that has, and a couple of developers who've reached out who are interested in developing affordable housing. So it's a very difficult time, but I'm feeling confident that as time goes on, people are recognizing the need to develop affordable housing, and there are people who are ready to step up to the plate to see what can be done to do that. But we're always looking for landlords. We're always looking for developing those partnerships. So please, if you know anyone, please connect.
And if I may, that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to learn. Is you're just not only providing transitional housing, but you're also connecting these transitional residents to more permanent. Okay,
That's the goal, right? Is that transition from homelessness or precarious housing to being permanently housed, and just what we are providing in the interim is just those supports to deal with whatever issues are creating some barriers for people, and it could be there's so many things that, every family is a little different, and so it's really tailored to what their needs are at that time and how we can help move them forward to a point where we can step away and they're comfortable to be self-sustaining.
Wonderful work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rinchima, seconded by Councillor Timmers, that Council receive the presentation from Elizabeth Zimmerman, Executive Director of YWCA Niagara Region. Any further questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion. Those in favor? All in favor, none opposed, the motion is carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We're moving on now to item number 12, and I have a motion to receive and file the council information package, which includes item 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3. All of these packages, ladies and gentlemen, can be found online for review on our website. Members, do you have any comments? Anyone with comments? There are a number of items in here that relate to conservation authorities, depending on the circumstances in individual municipalities. Mr. Ken Kowal is coming to speak to us, and you might want to keep some of those in mind when he comes before us. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rinjima, seconded by Councillor Pachariva. Receive and file the following council information packages. Council information package December 13th, 2019, December 20th, 2019, and council information package January the 10th, 2020. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? There are none opposed. The motion is carried. We'll move on now to recommendations from standing committees and consider now item 13.1, Committee of the Whole minutes from January the 13th, 2020. I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell, seconded by Councillor McPherson. Approve the following recommendations from standing committees, Committee of the Whole minutes, January 13th, 2020. Any questions? Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? There are none opposed. The motion is carried. We're now considering item 14.1, correspondence, which was received from the grape growers of Ontario dated January the 13th, 2020, with respect to modernization of retail alcohol sales. And members, this item was put on the agenda due to the timelines of the Roma conference where this motion is intended to be presented. However, I'll read the motion. Well, I'll ask you if you have any comments about it. Otherwise, I'll read the motion and then see where you're at. Councillor Njima.
I do have a question, Madam Mayor. Thank you. So the correspondence is a request that this issue be brought forward at the Roma conference. I'm wondering, is this council going to have representation at the Roma conference? It's happening right now, as far as my understanding.
Councillor McPherson. Just shut yours off. The response is coming from Councillor McPherson. Go ahead, Councillor McPherson, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to Councillor Regima's question, yes, there is going to be representatives from the town of Lincoln there tomorrow at the Roma conference, and this is one of the agenda items for us tomorrow. There are several that are attending. The mayor is attending, Councillor Pachariva, myself. And I do have a comment in addition that this is certainly in line with efforts that have come before us going back even a year ago. We did get in front of various ministers at AMO last August in Ottawa on this topic. We've also seen various delegations come to council speaking to this topic. So, you know, it's consistent with what we've been doing over the past year to support this. And, I think the timing was tight, but I think it does make sense for us to support it and help support the industry, both grape growers and, of course, the wineries as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Is that satisfactory, councillor? I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima and seconded by Councillor McPherson. Receive and file correspondence from grape growers of Ontario dated January the 13th, 2020, with respect to modernization of retail alcohol sales. And whereas Lincoln has an emerging craft beer sector that continues to grow and expand, and whereas Lincoln has over 50 wineries, breweries, and distilleries contributing to both our local and provincial economy, creating jobs and investment across Lincoln. And whereas the Government of Ontario plans to modernize alcohol sales by expanding the sale of beer and wine to corner stores, grocery stores, and big box stores based on market demand, and plans to modernize the legal framework through Bill 38. And whereas this decision represents a significant opportunity for the town of Lincoln and Ontario's wine regions to grow the Ontario grape and wine, craft beer, and spirits industry through increased consumer access. However, it needs to be ensured that the retail model supports the local 100% Ontario-grown industry so that the industry can continue to provide economic benefit to the local communities. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Lincoln has reaffirmed its support for the Ontario grape and wine, craft beer, and spirits industry, and will present this motion at the January 2020 Rural Ontario Municipality Association, ROMA Conference, seeking support from Ontario's rural communities, as well as forward a copy of this motion to our local MPP and the Minister of Finance. I'm assuming that those documents have been forwarded, Madam Clerk? Okay. We'll pass this tonight, and then that will happen. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? There are none opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have no notices of motion this evening. The next item on the agenda is the reports of municipal officers, and I'd like to invite Regional Councillor Robert Foster to come forward to the podium.
Good evening, Council. It's always a pleasure to be here. I liked Elizabeth's commentary earlier. The Rotary Club here in town has been a big supporter of Coldest Night of the Year for a number of years now. And I also like the golf tournament coming up for the mayor. We support that as well. We have a golf tournament ourselves at the Rotary Club that we have changed around thanks to Councillor Patriva's insistence, but it's going to be 2 weeks after the mayor's tournament this year, so we're looking forward to that. So we're early in the new year. We've gone through our first round of meetings at the region this past week. A number of items are kind of coming up as big ticket items for us over the course of the next number of months. Unfortunately, I can't comment on the Corporate Services Committee. Mayor Easton was there, so if you want to make comment to it, but I was at the NPCA meeting, at the annual general meeting that morning. For a variety of reasons, I needed to be there. From the Planning Committee meeting, the big thing this year is going to be the official plan for Niagara Region. We got a report in on the public consultation that's gone on to date so far with the official plan. I provided for you the top 5 key items that came up within those particular meetings, and also a chart that was given to us concerning the challenges and opportunities available to us. So why is this important to Lincoln? Well, you all and myself as well truly believe that Lincoln is running along very well, and we have done our homework here as far as official plans and moving forward. Under Mayor Easton's leadership last term of council, we put in place an official plan that for all intents and purposes refocused our municipality on the things that are important. And I think the town of Lincoln needs to make sure that their voice is clearly heard with this particular official plan as well. Some of the consultation that's gone on to date, and I mentioned this in the council meeting, I'm a little suspect of the numbers. There was 162 people attended all the various meetings that went on across the region. And while I appreciate what came out of this, suffice it to say that I think we need a bigger sample size before we go giving full credibility to things. I think, though, from what I've heard at meetings here at this council, the housing options and looking at affordable housing and the other areas around, although we don't have it so much here in town, but homelessness, I think these are all important things that need to be thought through and highlighted within our official plan. It isn't necessarily those things that you would naturally think about, but we do need to think through affordable housing in particular. So again, I look forward to the town of Lincoln getting actively involved with that. Tourism stakeholder consultation. So this report came in, I didn't really expect it at our planning meeting, but I heard and although I was not part of it, I know you here in the town as well has been talking about tourism and where you want to go. So it was an interesting report. The mayors at the meeting, more or less to a mayor, basically said we all got to be working together in this particular area, or at least we need to be working together again. I kind of felt like Mayor Easton in this particular case. She's very insistent that we use metrics when it comes to judging what it is that we're doing, whether it's economic development, tourism, or whatever. So I reminded committee that whatever it is that we're doing and wherever we're spending money, we really truly need to be showing the metrics in and around it to see whether or not we're actually accomplishing what it is that we're trying to do. That was acknowledged by staff that it's something that they don't do particularly well in this area at economic development at the region. So we have a little work ahead of us, so to say the least. Public health. This was an interesting discussion. It was around the Community Homeless Prevention Initiative. It's referred to as CHIPPY. And Mayor Sendzik and a few had a lot of commentary on this and a discussion around whether or not Niagara is being fairly treated when it comes to the area of monies towards this area. So I've been doing some research since, and actually Niagara is, from this point of view, is being fairly funded. Where funding came into place in Hamilton and other places, there were other components that were built into it originally in this particular area, and the government over the years really hasn't changed their funding formula other than increasing the amounts that are going out. So Niagara really hasn't been left out of the equation, but Minister Clark, I noticed, had some pretty strong statements on his views on this. So anyway, that was an interesting discussion. Big ticket item was approved at Public Works and will be finalized at our upcoming meeting. There's a new water storage system going to be going into place over at the Grimsby Water Plant. It comes within our budget mandate. I think we budgeted $22 million. This is coming in at 17.79. And this is for the increased development that we're seeing in West Niagara. We're going to see that this is a way of storage and being able to basically have backup systems more readily available on the water side of things out of the Grimsby plant. So this is very important to us as a town, particularly with development coming down the road. I don't have on my list because it happened only a couple hours ago. I was at Niagara Region, and our audit committee met today. We had a discussion on our review of procurement at the region, both sole source procurement as well as non-sole source, I guess, if you want to put it that way. The reports that were given to us were not particularly flattering, to say the least. But it also encompassed a time frame back in the previous council. What we did today is we moved, and hopefully council will agree, that we're going to get a third-party audit to do another review on the procurement side of things, and come back with some ideas for us whether or not we need to be making changes. Suffice it to say that staff were quite good at letting us know where we were at. There's been a significant number of changes have been made at Niagara Region, so there's a lot of good news stories in this, but of course, you know, it's sometimes difficult to weed out the good news from the bad news. So anyway, I'll leave that at that. So that's my report for this evening. I have been doing a number of other things, but not necessarily at the bequest of this council. So anyway, thank you, Mary Easton.
Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. Are there any questions for the councillor? Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Foster, again for coming and speaking to council. It's very much appreciated, and it's not easy, I guess, getting in front of everybody and having questions fired at you. So I appreciate the information about the regional official plan process. Do you know when what's the next step in the process and when that might be?
You're going to control me? Okay, good. I like being controlled. I'm not exactly sure. This was the first part of getting the information back to as to where we're at. My expectation, because there's a large number of reports that need to come in from the region on various components that will make up the official plan. These were talked about at earlier planning meetings that Mary Easton and I were at. Differing things on agriculture, differing reports on you know, industrial development, on commercial
Housing.
development, etc. All of these things are being worked on at the region now, so I'm not exactly sure when they're going to come back in again. If I had to hazard a guess, probably March or April. So
Okay.
at least we'll be seeing some of them showing up.
Thank you.
Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the councillor. I know you do like questions peppered at you, so I'll just throw one at you. It concerns public health. Just wondering if there's anything on the radar coming up for the region about the opioid issue in the region. And again, maybe that along with some of the SHARPS issue that seems to be popping up in and around certain cities. Just wondering if there's any strategic planning ahead coming up in the next few months, or if you can speak to it at all.
Okay. What an interesting and random question. I didn't expect that one. The opioid crisis has been discussed in several of our public health meetings. It's very interesting getting involved with that committee, because I'd never been involved with it, nor I got to admit, being on Town of Lincoln Council, I never really had an active interest. But I joined that committee when I came into Niagara Region, simply because I don't know enough about it, okay? We've had big-time discussions on the opioid, also on suicide prevention is the other. Staff have come through with a variety of programs to help in both areas. It's a bit of a losing battle. The numbers that I've been seeing is that it's a continuing on the rise, opioid deaths in Niagara Region. So what I'm going to do for you, though, Councillor Russell, when I see something coming through, I will pass that along to you. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
All right, there being no other questions, I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor McPherson to receive and file as information Regional Councillor Foster's update on January the 20th, 2020. Your pleasure on the motion. All of those in favor? There are none opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor. I'll move on now to the mayor's report. I have a number of items. I should have asked Councillor Foster to stay, because I do have some items here related to the region that relate directly to Lincoln. Good evening, residents, and all those watching this evening and with us here at Council. Council began 2020 with a wonderful levee held on January the 4th at the Fleming Center. It was the best turnout ever, and the event has reached a multi-generational status with public skating, a full opportunity to socialize and talk about happenings in the town, to set up appointments for deeper discussion, and to enjoy good food and local beverages. Later the same day, I attended the levee for MPP Sam Oosterhoff at Peninsula Ridge Winery. 2020 is the 50-year milestone for the town of Lincoln, and we have a variety of special events and programs that will be posted on our website if they're not there already. Currently, we have a National Heritage Art exhibit on loan at the Beam Street Museum location entitled The Wounded. The Tale of a Town, I think that's not the correct name, but it is, that is, I think, as close as I could remember, is also on display. And if any of you took part in the interviews throughout the summer, there's a number of audio tapes that I'm told, I haven't heard them yet myself, appeal to your own memories if you've lived here for a while, and enhance others' understanding, those of you who are a little newer, of what Lincoln was like in the earlier years. West Lincoln Memorial Hospital continues to draw a lot of attention in all West Niagara municipalities, and currently we are discussing the local share expectations of the new build with the foundation. Be assured that there will be public discussions on this as the Phase 2 planning is completed by Hamilton Health Sciences. It was recently approved by the ministry. Both Lincoln and West Lincoln have protected the previously levied funds. No transfers will take place from Lincoln until we are satisfied with the final confirmation, the scope, and clinical commitments to programs. And currently, we are discussing the details, as I said, with the foundation, and a motion will be presented to the Regional Council in the near future to solicit their share. Very locally, this Thursday on January the 23rd, the Olympia Restaurant on King Street, Beamsville will be closing after 40 years. And we hope to drop in to wish Tom and his family wishes of good health on their retirement. Tom has certainly been the focus in the kitchen, and we hope that the new owner gets it, that he needs to serve breakfast and, of course, the Greek specialties that are on the menu. I think a lot of people are going to be missing the Olympia. The recent minutes of Niagara Road 12 Landfill Site Citizens Liaison Committee were circulated last week by the region, and some of the highlights included a continued expansion in both the south and north sections during 2018 and 2019. A pump station upgrade that relates to the management of leachate odors. And work in 2020 includes the upgrades to the wall at the drop-off depot, making it an easier drop-off for residents, particularly for large items. The Ministry of Environment, Parks and Conservation have requested that the pond size be increased in size to accommodate a 100 as opposed to a 125-year storm. And construction is anticipated in spring 2020. Approximately 4,000 bags of compost were given away in the spring of 2019 in return for the free product. About $1,450 was collected, and 1,000 kilos of food donations as well were shared across the region food banks. Mattress recycling commenced the end of July 2019, and 4 tractor loads have been shipped. Please note there already exist, or there may exist, wherever you buy a mattress, a return take-back program, and you should look into those at the time of purchase. There is a charge at the landfill for mattresses, and Grimsby Road 12 is currently estimating 1 trailer every 2 weeks. So sharing that around a bit would be in everybody's best interest. There is considerable discussion about the transitioning and recycling of the blue box items over the next 3 to 5 years at the provincial levels, and talks about banning organics from landfills, but the province has not yet determined how to implement these challenging decisions. Clearly, the amount of personal waste makes all forms of recycling difficult and certainly increases costs overall. Waste management issues make up the most frequent calls to the municipality, and the service levels impact people the most due to the service delivery delays in real time. We won't see the level of improvement in service we all expect until the new contractor begins in the fall of 2020. Now, currently, Councillor Greg Reimer and most recently, Mr. Vic Dirksen of Jordan represent Lincoln on the Road 12 Site Citizens Liaison Committee. But I had not seen minutes of a meeting for some time, and I felt it was beneficial in light of all of that everyone has been dealing with waste management, that I bring this information forward this evening. On January the 14th, 2020, I attended on behalf of the town of Lincoln a further meeting on agricultural irrigation. This is now a shared service agreement, not yet formal, but moving in that direction amongst Lincoln, which has a partial closed system that's privately owned by a few farmers, including an open system in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and a system that is yet to be determined in the city of St. Catharines. And the goal is to move the Niagara Irrigation Strategic Action Plan to the next step and to implement pilot projects that are consistent with the needs of each area. Support for a salaried position with expertise in farm solutions was sought over a year ago. However, the grant was not applied to our project, and so we tried again with some of the share being taken on by the municipalities for a one-year pilot. And the representative who's going to be on this small group, a small advisory group, 3 or 4 hands-on individuals. For the town of Lincoln, it will be David Hipple, who is one of the farmers that's involved in the private water system here. In Lincoln, the short-term work will be for the selected consultant to meet with key growers who already have a system that is working for them and to begin discussions about future pilot expansions. There is a significant value in demonstrating the importance of irrigation to non-growers, including the government, documenting the real cost per hectare to show growers and government what exactly how much it's costing, and spend the time to speak to other experts who have done this work before. And I see Mr. Bruder here this evening, and certainly I think we had Stantec as one of the major consultants in the past when the last technical work was done. Water, ladies and gentlemen, was not an issue in 2019, and it's quite possible that 2020 may be repeated. But for sure, if the situation is reversed, everybody will be wondering what the municipalities have been doing to alleviate drought conditions. So this is a high priority. Hugh Fraser is the consultant. He is local, very well qualified, and he's charged with preparing a model that can be presented to government and further demonstrate that if Greenbelt equates to grow and prosper, that we have the technology and infrastructure in place to support one of the key elements to success in the ag sectors in Lincoln and Niagara as a whole. So I'll keep you up to date on that. Shared services have become a mantra that may or may not equate to overall savings in operating costs at the municipal level. And even if that is not reasonable to expect, as we hear through the experience of others, we surely need to build teams of experts to service our communities and keep the teams well educated and skilled, as well as highly motivated to high production through creativity and the use of innovation. The town of Lincoln has a number of shared use arrangements in place, and others are presenting themselves monthly, sometimes weekly. We already procure things jointly. We share a very sophisticated emergency management personnel system, and as we move forward, more opportunities will be brought, the CAO will bring those forward for council discussion as well. And we will seek out those partners who are like-minded and who have as much to give as we believe is in the best interests of our local residents. In order for this to be a satisfactory outcome, there needs to be balance with the partners. The partners need to move effectively through the change transition and be prepared to evaluate each step. These are important steps, particularly when we are faced with very high future losses through retirements of difficult-to-find technicians and skilled trades and professional staff. It is a time to selectively identify opportunities and thoughtfully work through the solutions. Tomorrow, as you heard earlier, representatives of the West Niagara municipalities will be attending with MPP Sam Oosterhoff at a delegation with Minister Carolyn Mulrooney, Minister of Transportation, to further push our case for the environmental assessment for the Niagara Escarpment crossing at Bartlett Road, Grimsby, and through to West Lincoln. In the meantime, in Lincoln, Council approved, as part of the 2020 capital budget, the design phase of the Bartlett Road and King Street alternative to left turns on King off Mountain Street, Beamsville. So in other words, you come down Mountain, you make a right turn, you travel along, and you make your left turn on Bartlett to move down to the Service Road and the Queen Elizabeth Highway. With good planning and support from the region of Niagara, we will achieve the result we want, which is to eliminate truck traffic on Ontario Street. And I have been advised that it is not a stretch to be looking for the end of this council term to be the target date. Thank you very much, Council, and ladies and gentlemen. Remember, you live in Lincoln, where everyone strives to be a good neighbor, where children are encouraged to achieve their very best by participating in their community and are supported in growth and confidence-building opportunities by their parents, their peers, and other role models. Our vision to grow, prosper, and belong has been set by you, our citizens, and shared by all of us. Thank you. It has been my pleasure. I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor Pachariva to receive and file as information the Mayor's report on January the 20th, 2020. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? The motion is carried. There are none opposed. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Russell. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that Council adjourn to closed session in order to address confidential item regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose as it pertains to Blizzard Road. Your pleasure on the motion. Those in favor? There are none opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I and seconded by Councillor Pachariva, that council resume into open session and that council receive information and advice provided by legal counsel in closed session. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor, your hands high, please. There are none opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. Now, you see where I'm at. We have 4 bylaws. I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima and seconded by Councillor Mikulik that leave be given to approve the following bylaws. 2020-01 bylaw to provide for the interim tax levies for the year 2020. 2020-02 bylaw to provide for borrowing for current expenditures. 2020-03-Z546 zoning bylaw amendment for Miljan Brothers Incorporated be approved. And 2020-404 bylaw to authorize a subdivision agreement with 2410002 Ontario Inc., Vista Ridge Phase 2. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? Everyone in favor, none opposed. The motion is carried. Okay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Mikulik that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2020-05, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Monday, January 20th, 2020, being read a first, second, and third time, and that bylaw number 2020-05 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? There are none opposed. The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Timmers, that council on January the 20th, 2020 be adjourned. Your pleasure on the motion. None opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, staff, for your attendance this evening.